Hi, I'm ViviBeawruu, and today I'm going to be reviewing Marvel's Wolverines, that's with an S, issues 1 through 15. So this series is a direct sequel to the Weapon X program series and also the Logan Legacy series. So the Weapon X program series was dealing with these people that were escapees from the Weapon X facility known as Paradise, which is also where Logan or Wolverine was created or genetically modified or whatever. So these people were modified with specific abilities, and while they are quite powerful, they're also considered to be practice kind of for the development of Logan. So first of all, we have Shogun, who is an ex-soldier who is also possessed by the spirit of the ninja Ogun. We have Neuro, who is super intelligent but is also a dangerous psychopath. Endo, a woman with an enhanced metabolism and speed. We have Skell with super strength, but he's also addicted to violence and has to be physically punching somebody to not experience withdrawals. And finally, we have Junk, who has many animal-related abilities. So, these people that escape from the Weapon X facility find out through the research files at the Weapon X facility that their DNA programs them to die within a short period of time unless it can be deactivated. So, to find out how to do this, they decide to kidnap the Wolverines, or as they're called, which is the focus of the Logan Legacy series, which deals with Mystique, X-23, Daken, Sabretooth, and Lady Deathstrike. At the end of the Weapon X program series, they kidnap the Wolverines in this special containment area, hoping that they'll be able to help them find a solution to this problem. So to blackmail them into helping them, they have these control words that they have found out that can control the Wolverines that were developed by the Weapon X facility. So there's one control word to manipulate the individual, one to sedate the individual, and one to even kill the individual. So each of the Wolverines, which Mystique, X-23, Daken, Sabretooth, and Lady Deathstrike, each have a set of control words that are kind of being held over their heads by the Weapon X facility rejects, as they're called. So I'm just going to go over a short summary of each of the issues. This will be focusing on issues 1 through 15. So as of May 21st, there's 17 issues out right now, but I'm just going to be doing the first 15. So I'm going to start off here with issue 1, which we have a very nice cover of Logan, who, as you may know, at the end of the Death of Wolverine miniseries, fought his way into the Weapon X facility, but ended up being covered with a vat of adamantium as he was escaping. So, as you could say, Wolverine kind of went out with a whimper rather than a bang, which rather disappointed many people. So this first issue deals with Shogun and company attempting to infiltrate the Paradise facility, or the Weapon X facility, to obtain Logan's statue or his body, or however you want to say that, in hopes that it will reveal some kind of secret that will be able to help the Wolverines find out how they can escape from the power of their control words, and also how it might be able to help Shogun and his friends be able to escape their DNA, which causes them to self-destruct within a certain amount of time. So, of course, they run into quite a bit of trouble once they break into the facility. Mr. Sinister is already there and is also looking to get Logan's body for his own research purposes. So Daken, who is one of the Wolverines that attacks the facility, ends up losing his arm to Mr. Sinister, and as you may know, in the previous series, in the Logan Legacy series, he loses his healing factor to Siphon, which is a creature that siphons off healing abilities. So as a result of his confrontation with Mr. Sinister, Daken nearly dies as he's lost his healing factor. So he is saved kind of at the last minute by Shogun, who has obtained a regeneration serum from the Weapon X facility as they were escaping. He has an internal conflict with the spirit possessing him, or Ogun, who is rather evil, who doesn't want him to waste that regeneration serum on Daken to save him. So at the end, it's revealed that Daken's arm has a tracking device, which is going to help the Wolverines and Shogun and company be able to find Mr. Sinister's fortress. So, issue 3 introduces Phantomelle, which we have here on the cover, and her talking fox, Culpepper. So it's revealed that Phantomelle is another project of the Weapon X facility, in which she's trained to be a thief. So to be like the #1 thief on the planet. So she's currently using her abilities to steal items for clients. So usually like collector's items from famous superheroes. So the introduction scene in this comic, we see her stealing one of the Punisher's t-shirts for a client. So that was pretty funny. At the end of issue 3, Phantomelle has a confrontation with Siphon, who wants to take her healing factor. And at the last minute, she's saved by X-23 and the other Wolverines. So in issue 4 here, the Wolverines strike a deal with Phantomelle to have her help them sneak into Mr. Sinister's fortress to get the Wolverine body back. In issue 5, the Wolverines and Shogun and company infiltrate the Mr. Sinister's fortress, and of course they're stepping right into danger. They run into many of Mr. Sinister's weird genetic creations. There's a dragon named Finfang Boom, whose tongue is actually a clone of Thor or something. I'm not quite sure what that was about. And they also run into numerous Scarlet Spider clones. And at the last minute, the X-Men arrive to interfere with Mr. Sinister's plans for his research on the body of Wolverine. So with issue 6, the X-Men end up obtaining the body of Logan, but they won't let the Wolverines and Shogun and everybody use him to find out how they can escape their fates. Issue 7, we see the development of a pretty strange relationship between Lady Deathstrike and Shogun. Apparently, Lady Deathstrike and Ogun were lovers before Ogun died. So she finds out that Shogun is being possessed occasionally by the spirit of Ogun. So they end up becoming lovers, but it's also kind of a love-hate thing because they also try to kill each other several times in this issue. In issue 8, we start an arc that involves Fang, who is one of Wolverine's previous enemies, but he eventually becomes his friend. Fang touches down on Earth with hopes to have a drink with Logan, but he, of course, realizes that Logan has been killed. So he tries to find out who was the one that did this, and he suspects that it was one of the Wolverines that did so, because, of course, several of the Wolverines have a reason to have a vendetta against Logan, including Sabretooth. Fang decides that he wants to take each of the Wolverines to a certain location so that he can talk with them and or possibly kill them to find out if they were involved in Wolverine's death or not. So first of all, he selects Daken, who is still brooding over the loss of his arm and his healing factor. So he takes Daken to fight a frost giant, which of course doesn't go really well, as frost giants are fairly fierce, and Daken doesn't have his healing factor any longer. So he ends up surviving, but he ends up having a heart-to-heart conversation with Fang, in which Daken kind of discusses his daddy issues and how much he hates his dad. So eventually, Fang takes Daken back to Mystique's ship and selects Sabretooth to be the next Wolverine that he interrogates. So in issue 10, Fang takes Creed, or Sabretooth, into space where they fight a group of hostile aliens on a ship. And interestingly enough, Fang reveals that Logan told him that Logan thought that he was quite boring, and he was tired of having to fight him over and over again. Of course, he would attack him every year on his birthday, and he just thought that Creed, or Sabretooth, was quite a boring person. So, issue 11, we have a rather hilarious opening scene, which is a flashback showing how Fang used to try to get Wolverine drunk by providing him with apparently the finest in alien liquor. And there's this scene where Wolverine has a huge pack of this liquor strapped to his back, and apparently it's actually resulting in him being slightly drunk. So seeing Logan slur his speech is kind of amusing. So next, X-23 insists on being the next person that Fang interrogates. So instead of going to some exotic location, they end up just going to the bar where Fang and Logan used to drink together. So they have a talk, and finally Fang reveals that he has put Laura, or X-23's trigger scent, in her drink, which fortunately enough she hasn't been drinking. So she says, you know, I've spent all this time trying not to be a monster and trying not to be controlled by my instincts that I've been programmed with, but here you are trying to get me to ignore all that and let my trigger scent get the better of me. So she ends up attacking him anyway, even though she's not under the influence of the trigger scent. So Fang also reveals to X-23 that he believes that she's the only one of the Wolverines that's not truly a monster, because she's the only one that's actually made an effort to try to fight against her fate and try not to be the murderer that everybody wants her to be. In issue 12, it's revealed that Mystique and the rest of the Wolverines and Shogun and company have been trying to come up with a way to defeat Fang because they believe that he is a threat to them, even though the Wolverines that have been taken by him so far haven't come to any harm. So in the meantime, while Fang was busy discussing things with the Wolverines, Mystique has developed a spectral disruptor that is able to reveal the location of Fang's spirit, or his soul, which with his species floats kind of in a cloud above his head. So now when they can see that, they realize that's the only way that they can kill him. So when the spectral disruptor reveals it, Creed lashes out and attacks Fang, who is quite shocked that they have the technology to be able to see it. So X-23 tries to protect Fang because she knows that he's not that bad of a guy and really just wants to find out who killed his friend. So at the last minute, Fang teleports himself and takes Shogun with him to find out, before he dies, like, was Shogun one of the ones involved with the death of Wolverine? So they are teleported to this strange planet, which looks like just a bunch of crystal formations. And Shogun reveals to Fang before Fang dies that he actually fought Logan at the Weapon X facility because he was being controlled by his genetics and by the facility, and had no choice but to fight Logan, who was already weakened by fighting other enemies. So he reveals that he was probably the one that had the most effect, or the most was most instrumental in bringing about Wolverine's death. So as I said, as a result of Sabretooth attacking him, Fang ends up dying. So in issue 13, this was a pretty funny issue involving Deadpool. So it's revealed that during all this time with the Fang arc, Phantomel has been busy stealing a Wolverine suit for Deadpool. So at the end of the previous issue, we see Deadpool handing her a huge suitcase full of cash, and Deadpool looking very gleeful as he obtains his blue and yellow classic Deadpool suit, which is authentic. So again, this is a pretty kind of silly issue in which Deadpool decides that he wants to be Wolverine. He puts on Wolverine's old costume, has some fake plastic claws that end up slipping down into his sleeve when he's trying to fight enemies, and he just ends up trolling several people, including She-Hulk. So he decides at the end that he probably better stick to being Deadpool. Issue 14, we have an interesting cover here. I think that Doc in here looks very much like Wolverine. When I first saw this cover, I was thinking, well, wow, is Wolverine already back? But you realize here he's missing his arm, so this is indeed Daken, who's apparently grown sideburns and has gotten rid of the mohawk. So in this issue, Daken finds out that Mystique actually knows where Siphon is. So Siphon, again, is the monster that siphoned off his healing powers, or his healing abilities, and so he jumps off of the Changeling, or Mystique's ship, and X-23 decides to come with him to keep him out of trouble, because she realizes that that is a very bad idea in his current condition. So in this issue, they team up with Blade to defeat a horde of vampires, and also to have a confrontation with Siphon. So issue 15, again we have Daken looking very much like his father, Logan. In this issue, they have X-23 and Daken have a face-off against Siphon along with Blade. They end up weakening him with Blade's sword, and Daken wants to kill Siphon for what he did for stealing his healing factor. But X-23 stops him, and at the last minute, Mystique arrives with a Changeling and decides that she wants to keep Siphon for her own research to find out what he is and how he's stealing healing factors, and if they could possibly get them back. So that's about it. So this has been ViviBeawrуу's review of Wolverines issues 1 through 15. You can check out my profile at facebook.com/ViviBeawruu gaming and cosplay, and also check out my Twitch live video game streams at twitch.tv/ViviBeawruu. So thanks a lot.